All right, we're live. It seems I start each one of these episodes off saying that.
That's okay. We have to know when we're live. Gotta know these things.
All right, Bookish Buzz, episode 2. We're here. We're doing it.
We are. We did it. We did episode 1. Now we got 2.
I'm still riding the high from episode 1. It was a lot of fun engaging with all of our friends and family, just really getting some love for it. It was a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness, yes. So very much fun.
Speaking of that, we want to give a huge thank you to everyone who showed us a little love for episode 1. People are like, I can't believe you stuck me with just one episode. How dare you? So we figured maybe we didn't suck terribly and we probably should go on and do episode 2.
Good.
Hopefully 2 million more to go.
And here we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, just so many friends and family and a few people on the internet that I reached out to from Goodreads and Discord and some other things. I shared it wherever I could, and it seems to be overwhelmingly positive. Some great comments, lots of love and support. So thank you to everybody there.
Yes.
This is still a work in progress. We'll
It,
see how it goes.
it is a passion project. It's a work in
Yeah.
progress.
Doesn't take all of our time. It's something we want to do, something we love. So let's share it with the world.
Absolutely.
So we do want to reach out and say this format is still evolving. We're at a monthly cadence right now. Hopefully, we can maybe up that to go to a bi-weekly cadence. But we really want to know what people want to hear, what people want to see, what do we want us to talk about. And so we're going to be posting on our socials some different polls, some different comment opportunities to hear from you all to say, what do you want to hear about? Let's talk about what else we have planned. I'll let you take that away.
Oh, we have so much planned. I'm so excited. The most major thing that I am most interested in is our first live show for our book club, Who Needs Reads. A little bit more to come up on that, but definitely planned this Sunday. We're going to do some reading sprints and also some hangouts, some shorter themed episodes, just really getting a chance to connect with anybody that wants to hang out with us because, I mean, we're cool. Who doesn't want to hang out with us and talk about books, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, yeah, again, as I mentioned before, we're going to do some polls out there just to get some feedback from the listeners themselves. So, keep an eye out for social media posts to come.
Absolutely. We have Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. YouTube's all Caleb, but Instagram and TikTok, I got those. I'm figuring those out.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We did a little test on a StreamYard for the live show coming up this weekend, and I actually participated in some other booktubers live streams this weekend, and the momentum is building. I'm so excited for it.
It is. It's so exciting.
So let's move on to a more solemn note. But, with all of the love and support that we've gotten surrounding our podcast and our new venture here together, we also wanted to take time to note what this community really means to each other. We come from a very small community and a very close knit community. And recently we did suffer the loss of somebody who is very dear to our hearts, somebody who was absolutely taken well before their time, just so very young. And we have been devastated.
It has.
It just got us thinking. We wanted to use this platform to take some time to show how much the community means to us and how that community has shown its strength in each other, leaning on each other. So many people have come back together, come home, reached out, really started reconnecting. And we wanted to do our part to talk about grief and loss and how we use the chosen medium that we have, the books and
Yeah.
nonfiction books and fiction books and things to explore these ideas here. So I know you wanted to say a few things.
Yes, I actually had the opportunity to go to the service last week and it was beautiful. We really don't like to say that funerals and things like that are beautiful, but I think the most beautiful part of it was just realizing how close-knit of a family we are being from Oberlin. I have friends everywhere. But I will say there is nothing like the friends and the family and the circles, just everything that takes place within Oberlin. I don't know of anywhere else where your friends actually become family and then you grow up to realize that you guys are cousins. It was just an amazing experience just to see everyone come together. I'm very proud to be a part of the community of Oberlin and everything that it offers. It's something when you lose a friend, a cousin, family, and just seeing people who you didn't know were your family. Even some teachers. I was able to actually see teachers at this service. It really just made me take a moment to reflect and realize that life is a gift and we have to do our best. We can't, I don't want to say take it for granted or anything like that, but it's really important that we realize just how precious life is because it's not promised. Your next breath is not promised.
Yeah,
Bless.
absolutely. We wanted to take the opportunity. We have both dealt with a significant amount of grief in our personal lives. Grief is a subject and a topic for me that is really important. Just mortality, as we get older, becomes more prevalent, and losing people close to you, friends, family, or otherwise, and even those that are still with us that we've lost in spirit or in presence in our lives, that still takes a toll on us. So we've both done a ton of reading on this subject, and we wanted to offer those of us who are listening here some opportunity to take a look at some books, some different nonfiction and fiction books, books of poetry, different things like that. So I will kick it off here with a book called The Tears That Taught Me. It is a book of poems that really focuses on grief as a whole, but also the hole that is left when we lose somebody important in our lives. It is by Morgan Richard Olivier. Books of poetry, each poem will mean something to you at a different point in your life. But this one, every page just holds a nugget of truth and power that I couldn't recommend this one more.
Absolutely. I will also say that I really enjoyed reading Signs by Laura Lynne Jackson. To me, it was more of a comforting read. And when you really think about it, people do pass, but that whole realm of spirit, you always hear they're gone in the physical, but they're still with you in spirit. Science actually has a bunch of different stories in it where people have shared their experiences with knowing that their loved one was actually still with them, whether it's by signs of coins or maybe the coincidence of a Queen of Hearts card or anything like that. It could be something as simple as a song. It was actually really comforting of a read just to kind of relate it to my life as well too and the loss that I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chicken Noodle Soup. I don't know if you've read any of the Chicken Noodle Soup books, but to me, I read all of those books when I was a kid. Chicken Noodle Soup for the Grieving Soul is just as it sounds. It is literally like eating a bowl of warm soup. It is comforting. Just to read some of the stories that are in there as well, definitely a really good pick.
Awesome. So my next book is actually a workbook of sorts.
Mhm.
I found that journaling, writing, penning, whatever you can do to put your feelings on paper into the universe has such a healing effect. And Rupi Kaur, I'm probably butchering their name, but it's just one of my favorite poets. She has penned Milk and Honey and several other books of poetry that are so beautiful and lyrical. I mean, all poems truly are beautiful, but there's something it's like she's writing specifically for me that has been really powerful. And so I took the time to explore this book, and it's going to take that a step further and put the pen in your hand
Mhm.
and help you work through your grief personally by writing prompts and different things that are going to help you explore grief as a whole. So I definitely wanted to touch on that one.
I'm gonna have to check that one out. I've read some of their work with Milk and Honey, and I really have enjoyed those stories. I can definitely agree. Journaling is amazing. Even if it's just the gratitude journaling, the what are you thankful for? Those types of writing prompts really do heal those empty parts. And it goes right into the next one, which is the Grief Recovery Handbook. I feel like this is one of the most popular books that are out there. It really just helps with being able to put your feelings down, write about whatever it is that you need to write, and really just put that pen to paper. I highly, highly recommend the Grief Recovery Handbook.
Fantastic. I wanted to talk about Deeper Than the Ocean. It's another book of poetry by Emma Rose Harris. I have not fully finished this one. I actually picked it up recently in looking for more books for us to explore on this podcast. I picked it up as just like a laundry list of books to look into. And from page one, oh, goodness, I needed to take a minute to breathe and recenter myself because what was on that page was immediately affecting me,
Yeah.
because the way that she has written this is so raw and so powerful that it had an immediate emotional effect on myself. And so I had to take a minute, take a breath, as we all should do, and
Mhm.
recenter ourselves when exploring things like this. Take it at your pace because it can be very challenging.
Absolutely.
And then the last one is Grief is for People. This is a memoir, and I have not personally read it yet. It has been on my TBR. It popped up for a few people on BookTube here as their nonfiction picks. This book is really hitting on the notes. Grief is universal. Everybody experiences it. We are mortals. We are born, we grow, we pass away. That is the plight of humankind and really all life. And so exploring this in the memoir form after she loses a very close personal friend of hers and just exploring how that hole in her life is experienced. I cannot wait to pick this one up. I know it sounds crazy. Can't wait to pick it up, but I do enjoy reading books about grief because they're so relevant in our lives. And
Absolutely.
I need to explore these things to be prepared for them.
That's the only way you can really know is if you do take the time to allow yourself to feel the feelings. We often grow up and we think that we can't feel our feelings or our feelings are not valid. And in my own journey of therapy and things, I have learned that it's okay to feel those feelings. What's not okay is that you live in those feelings.
I appreciate it. We read things that make us feel things. That's what literature is about. Poetry, memoirs, biopics, all those things. For me, horror is very emotionally effective. So a couple of my fiction picks are going to be in the horror category, but
Right.
in a different realm. Horror is such a strange genre that it's not all gore and scares. Some of it, the horror of things is just life, and life can be truly traumatic. So I wanted to talk about a couple of those things, but I'm excited because you put a book on there that's a fiction book that has been
Yeah.
on my list for a really long time. And I know there's now a sequel as well, but I wanted you to talk about that one real quick.
Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This one I am really excited about. It is actually my first translated fiction. It actually originates in Japanese. I started it this morning, so I can't give you all the details or anything, but I did start it this morning. It seems really comforting, very interesting as well. It is a cozy literary fiction around grief that actually allows you to travel in time and visit a loved one who recently passed. There's only a few rules to this cafe. You have to sit in the same seat. You also can't change the past. Like you can't change anything, but you can go back and visit. And you have to come back before your coffee gets cold. I have been seeing this book everywhere. And in fact, it's here on my Kindle. I've really just been sitting back and reading the first few pages of it. And I'm like, I'm really gonna enjoy this. I think there's 5 books. It's quite a few.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been seeing it, like, in barns and everywhere, and I'm like, "What is this book?" And, of course, because it's got a cat and some chairs on it, I'm like, "I think I need to read this book."
Which is very funny because you used the trigger word cozy. And I told you that you just haven't found the right cozy for you in the first episode. And I think you figured it out.
I did. I have definitely sat back and done some reflecting. I do like some cozy, some.
And that's okay. Cozy fantasy may not be up your realm.
Mhm,
I'm a cozy mystery fan. I'm also a cozy fantasy fan, but there's something about the more cozy, impactful pieces
mhm.
like this that are general fiction or something like that, that they're such slice of life things,
Yeah.
even when they deal with heavy topics. And I have been looking for this one for a while. I don't know if I need all 5 books,
Oh,
but
I
this
wanna
one
read them.
certainly feels like it's going to be right up my alley.
No, I definitely wanna read them and just take my time with them because I'm finding with like series of books, I don't want to read them all at once. I want to stretch them out. So I'll read this one this month, and then maybe a month or two, I'll read the second. And, just take my time with it because it feels like it's going to be a beautiful journey. It does.
Fantastic. I have a few other fiction books that are on my radar for one, and the other two I have read personally. The first one is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. This is a LGBTQ book that deals with some heavier topics such as loss, suicidal ideation, things like that. This one I have not gotten to, but I am very excited for it. Actually, until I was exploring forums and different things for this topic,
Mhm.
I wasn't sure that this book fit in there, but after reading some excerpts and some comments and reviews from people, just seeing how absolutely truly important this book is to not only the LGBTQ community, but also to those experiencing loss and grief through that.
Yeah.
So definitely something to pick up there. And then the other two are in the horror realm again. The first one is a little novella called Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. And that one really truly does kind of exist within the realm of horror, true horror, where there are some grotesque moments. But essentially, she loses her son at a young age, and she is dealing with that loss and that grief. And then she starts to experience phenomenon where she believes he is standing across the street, and he gets closer and closer every time she sees him under the streetlight. And there is a lot to it. It's such a short book, I don't want to spoil it, but
Mhm.
you see the progression of her being comforted by her son visiting, and the decline of not only her mental state but her physical health as well. It's having this impact as dives deeper into her grief. It seems to be taking pieces of her, and the ending just absolutely left me jaw on the floor, like, wow, I can't believe this little 100 and something page book was able to absolutely gut me. And again, it does exist in the horror realm, and I think this one's more traditionally horror, but for those specifically with loss of a child, that those might be triggers. Avoid this at all costs, but they are important subjects to explore. My next one is Monstrilio. It's a little bit horror and it's a lot of bit heart. It's just so emotionally heart wrenching to watch it. And the book itself is so beautiful, and it's got like purple prose. So it's really well written, and it will use words to wound you in the best way possible, where it is truly impactful with every sentence on the page.
That sounds pretty intense. I don't know. I'm still kinda dibbling and dabbling with the horror because I don't like to be scared.
They're
Think
definitely not scary in terms of that.
Okay, I have to think about it. I might read a couple pages and see how I go. But I did just think about one as well too that I forgot to add, and it's very powerful. I don't have who it's by right on the top of my head, but it's on my bookshelf. It's actually called Someday Maybe. This book is a journey about how this wife actually ends up losing her husband, and it is very powerful just the way that it's written. I did read a few pages. It actually was a little bit too heavy for me at the time that I read it. It was right around the time where my father passed, and I'm like, I can't quite read this just yet, those raw emotions that were in there. I definitely did enjoy the few pages that I did read, but I needed to take a step back. The journey of how they were together when he passed and how she needs to try and find herself and heal herself.
Fantastic. So there were a lot of book recs. One of the pieces of feedback that I got first was, you guys talked about a lot of books.
Mhm.
Can you please put them somewhere? So in the description of this episode, there will be a list of books mentioned. I won't put any links, but there will be authors and titles in the description. So if you missed something, go back, check out there.
Awesome.
At this time, I want to take a moment to honor Shikwe and give a moment of silence. So that was a lot,
Yes.
and we need a pick me up.
Absolutely.
We need to move into lighter territory. So we're going to talk about what I have coined as Caleb's Pop Culture Corner.
Mhm.
So what that means is, look, I'm not going to be telling you about brand new pop culture stuff. I'm a dad. I work multiple jobs. I got responsibilities. As I so eloquently put it, I've got dark circles and back pain. I am here for all of that pop culture when I can get to it.
Yeah.
So some of these things are definitely not going to be news to anybody, but I think I found some hidden gems. I did recently check out a show that was recommended to me by my good friend Chris, and I had never heard of it. And I was blown away by the fact that this show is so good. I had never heard of it, and it was already canceled. So, like, it just gutted
That's
me
the
from the
worst.
beginning. It's the worst because I'm like, but then I found out it is based on a book series and it's not new.
Mhm.
So I'm like, this is great. I want to talk about it on the podcast. It's called Half Bad, The Bastard Son and the Devil Himself. It's a heck of a name, but it is magical, witches. It's bloody at times.
Mhm.
It's really well done with the CGI and the storytelling itself. It is YA in its realm, and it acts YA at times,
Mhm.
but it was super good. I did look into it. The first book and the show are pretty much spot on.
Okay, good.
So I was going to originally do a comparison,
Mhm.
but I decided against it. We are just going to move on to book 2,
Okay.
and I am going to dive further into that one and update people in the future on whether that book series lives up to the hype that the show did and whether we should continue on in that. So that was cool. I know you started this recently,
I
right?
did, and I'm so excited that I did.
It's really good.
Yes, like, I am finding myself trying to do anything else because I'm like, "What's happening? What's going on?" So, I did make it to episode 3. I still have quite a bit more to go, but I made it to episode 3, and it's definitely worth the watch. I have never seen anything like it before, and I really do like it. Thanks for sharing that with
Of
me.
course. I think there's 8 episodes.
I think there's 8.
Yeah, Netflix is like that. It's like 6 is a mini series, but somehow 8 and 10 are full series.
I
Don't
have no
ask.
idea.
So, you'll have to update us on the next one, what you thought about that.
Absolutely.
The next little piece that I have here is I finally don't hate me. It's been 2 years. I finally finished Stranger Things just in time because the hype has been building for season
Yes.
5, the final season, and I needed to get caught up because I've over here been faking it through conversations like I know anything about Vecna. And so I needed to get through it, and I remember the chokehold that this show had when it first
Mm,
came out and why I loved it because it is so well done and bloody and fun, and the characters are evolving, which is my favorite part to really watch. It was kinda like the Harry Potter movies.
yes.
You got to watch them grow up.
Mhm.
They're not super great actors, the kids aren't, but it's a lot of fun,
They do a heck of a good
and
job.
they grew up together, and you can see the love that they have for each other.
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed finishing that one out there and cannot wait for season 5 to launch. I think it's coming out early next year, I hope.
Just with the way, like, season 4, even though they were, like, all mini movies, I don't think I want it to end. It was so good.
That got me thinking, like, I want more
Mhm.
of the world. It's the world that really does it.
Mhm.
Like, what's the cool part? Yeah, cool, you got, a girl with superpowers, you've got this organization, it's always a governmental agency or something.
Always.
You have all these things here, but, like, I wanna be in the Upside Down. I
Mhm.
wanna know more about that world and the Mind Flayer and all of that.
Mhm.
And so I was like, this is one of those things that I need more of, and I found out through your help, there are a ton of books. Now, some of them are behind the scenes things, some of them are just kinda, like, diving more into specific characters, like 6 and the development of the Upside Down. There are kids' book, there are adult books, and there are graphic novels. I'm probably leaning towards the graphic novel realm because some of the books, they seem like they'd be good subjects, but I don't know that I wanna read, like, a 200-page book on this.
Mhm.
But a graphic novel I could get down with, and there are like 5 options. So, I'm gonna check out some of those, and I'll update everybody on that here in the future.
Okay.
But what other worlds do we wanna see? And this got me thinking, and I posed the question to you,
Mhm.
I wanna see, like, books that I wanna see on the screen because that is the primary most of our TVs and movies reflect
Mhm.
great book series. But, like, what's a show as well that you have watched that you wanna see on paper, you wanna read more about?
Mhm.
So I'll kick it off talking about books that I wanna see in movies or series, and this one's probably out of left field because a lot of people haven't checked it out, but if you've never heard of Slewfoot, it is a horror novel by, in my opinion, one of the most talented dark horror artists that exists out there. His name is Brom. And Slewfoot is, if you've never seen the movie The Witch, which I'm sure you haven't,
Mm-mm.
there's a good following on that one. It's this dark, like Puritan setting,
Okay.
and a lot to do with women and their roles and their restrictions and how they were treated by the community, by the church, when they didn't have value, when they didn't have a husband or when they didn't have a brother to take care of them. And she wants to just live her life, and people start pointing fingers and calling her a witch. And you start to see her kind of deal with this entity that lives in the woods that very much is the devil. And he's not there to create death and chaos, but death and chaos seem to follow. There's not an explicit partnership between them, but there starts to be this dynamic between the two. And to just watch that unfold, it is the perfect thing to watch in a movie. I want to see it on the screen like today.
I haven't seen that one.
You gotta check it out.
I have to give it a
You got some good ones on here. I know my wife would kill for either of these 2 that you got on
Oh
here.
my goodness, yes. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. I need to see it on the screen. I know, like, when you scroll on TikTok, people have created their AI world or universe, but Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, I am currently reading Iron Flame right now. I finished Fourth Wing quite a while ago, but I have some friends that I'm reading that one with, and I'm ready for it. I wanna know what's gonna happen. Onyx Storm is coming out in the 3rd. I just think that would make a great series. Just all the action and adventure in it. You're like, "Absolutely not."
I honestly think I would probably enjoy it more
Mhm.
as a show or a movie, like
Yes.
movie series like Divergent. I didn't like the Divergent books.
Mhm.
The movies did the trick. They're angsty and actiony and government
Yes.
overthrowy, so I think that would be good on screen.
Absolutely. We got one in common. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Yeah, and I even put on here, like, Apple TV does such a good job
Yes.
with their adaptations. They did a show called The Changeling, which is a book by Victor Levell.
Mhm.
It was my first book by Victor Levell because he writes reimagined pieces, like The
Okay.
Ballad of Black Tom, which is a reimagined Lovecraft piece.
Ooh.
It's got these cosmic horror elements to it, and they did that adaptation so well, so I want them to do the same, give it the same love,
Mhm.
find that character who's gonna have that youthful, timeless look,
Mm.
but be invisible. Like, how could the world ignore it? How could the world not see this person?
Mhm.
And then have her walk throughout the world not being seen. That book is so good, and
Yes.
Schwab is a fantastic author, but she knocked this one so far out of the park
Mhm.
that I've enjoyed some of her other books and her other series. I don't know how I could love this one anymore. It's gonna be at the top of my list for a long time.
Awesome. And you're right, Apple TV does do a really good job at adaptations. They just put Dark Matter and Presumed Innocent on there.
They
I
did.
haven't watched them yet, but they are definitely on my list.
I need to read that Blake Crouch book. It's been on there, and I actually found it at the Goodwill bookstore the other day, so I bought it for
Nice.
$3. I am gonna be checking that one out soon, and
Okay.
then, yeah, I gotta check out the show.
Yes. Maybe that'll be on our list for
I
December. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know if I can get December any more full than it already is because 'cause I'm so hyped up from all the books we talk about,
It's so bad.
and I wanna read them all today.
There's not enough time.
There isn't.
No.
I think you've got one on here I think that TikTok is gonna love, so I'll let you talk about that one because it was a TikTok firestorm, and it still is.
Yes, A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's actually one of the books that are on my shelf right there. That's the one I'm reading right now, A Court of Mist and Fury. I think these would make an excellent series. Don't just give me a book, give me a series of all of the books. I think it would be amazing. The world building, the different courts, I think it would be amazing.
I think this one belongs on Netflix.
It feels more of a Netflix kinda thing. I can't see it being anywhere else.
You know, if we can get the treatment that Bridgerton gets, and we can get that super
Mhm,
A-list writer and director, you are going to get a truly great world, but I don't know, that's a big pill to swallow, number 1.
mhm.
It's very smutty, so,
I haven't got to any of the smutty parts. I'm only like a
uh,
quarter through A Court of Mist and Fury. But I don't think it's smutty though, because I feel like it's got more plot than smut. Like for my books, I like
don't keep reading.
oh gosh, it makes me nervous. Oh goodness. We'll see how this
It's
goes.
I would say that it from everything my wife this is a series that really kicked off reading for her, like, she was obsessed. She
Mhm,
made me read the first book. Truthfully, I did not read past the first book. It was good,
mhm.
but it wasn't for me.
Right.
It's just not the kind of series I don't want these 8-foot tall Fey men. It's just not for me, but she loves it, and she did say, like, it does get call it spicier or steamier
Okay.
throughout it, but it doesn't truly lose the fantasy element that exists within the story, so that is good.
Okay, that brings back a little bit more hope because I like my stories to
Yeah.
have a story to it. I just don't wanna just read to read. I like for my stories to have a plot with them and kind of feel like you're there with them, all their emotions and everything.
Yeah, I'm all about world building, and I think that's why I have 2 on here that I've always been a huge fan of the Chronicles of Narnia. We have the omnibus full collection of all 7 books.
Mhm.
I love The Magician's Nephew. It's my favorite book out of all of them. It kicks off the world, how nothing existed but darkness, and how Aslan created this world. Oh my gosh, it is so good, and I just wanna see that on screen, and I know we're getting an adaptation. Greta Gerwig is producing and directing this. I just don't know if we're gonna get what I want. I wanna see at least 6 of the books. We can skip the 1. I don't need 6 movies, though. Do this in 5 and blend a couple of them together because I think you can,
Yeah.
but give me completion. We're signing on for this. I'm here for the ride. You don't have to have the perfect cast, but I wanna see it done well, and I have hopes Greta Gerwig can turn things like Barbie into a franchise that I think it shouldn't have been successful. It truly shouldn't have. Nobody's gonna argue with me that, and it was so beyond well done with the merchandising, with the advertising, with the story itself that I think that she could turn what's already a great story into something fantastic on screen.
Absolutely.
And then, this was something I was obsessed with, so I started, like, dabbling back in reading and audiobooks specifically in, like 2014, just before my son was born,
Mhm.
and I picked up this I loved the movie I Am Number 4. It was so cool when it came out, and I was like, "Oh, this is based on a book series. Let me check it out." So, there are, like, 15 of these things. There are, like, 9 books in the regular series, and then you get some, like, spin-offs, some lost books, and then you get, like, a new spin-off.
Oh,
So, there are a
wow.
ton. I read the original 9, and it's really good. I don't think there needed to be 9 books,
Mhm.
but I think this needs to be rebooted and needs some love on the screen because it's such an interesting but simple premise.
Mhm.
But I think if we find the right actors, and there are some good upcoming new actors, I think this belongs on Netflix. I think that this could be really, really good. With the love that shows like The Boys have gotten, I think there could be a lot of love for this one if it's done right.
That reminds me, being that there's so many books, I haven't read it, but I see it all over TikTok and everywhere else. But the Zodiac Academy, have you seen those?
Oh my god, there are like 12 books?
Yeah.
I think there are 12 books for the Zodiac.
There's 12, and with the 12, there's also, like, 3 books for a certain group of people that's in it, but it's a really big series.
Okay.
I hear a lot of people talking about that.
I'm intimidated by the long series of things.
Yes.
I don't know that I wanna commit. I'm in a, book 10, 11, 10, 11's coming out? I don't know.
Oh my
We have
god.
one coming out in January for the Wayward Children. However, they're all novellas. They're like
Oh,
150 to 200 pages,
okay.
and there's 1 book a year, like and it's great world building, fantastic characters. I can do that. I don't know that I could do 12 full-length novels or more, just in one world. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
and they're
That's a
thick
lot for
'ems
me.
too. They're big ones.
It's one of those things where we are overindulgent sometimes. You get a series that's so good, but you really gotta take it slow. I think you said this earlier, you don't wanna just binge
Mhm,
series. So I'm going, like, real slow with Sanderson, reading a 1,200-page book, and then I'm gonna take time because I can't read a 1,200-page book, a 1,300-page book, a
mhm.
1,500-page book, and knowing that there's still so much more out there,
Yes.
it's overload.
Yeah, I can't. I think that's why I have to break my books up. I still haven't read Two Twisted Crowns yet from the One Dark Window.
I do think that duology is my exception because I know
Mhm,
as a completionist, I can finish this series
mhm.
because it's only 2 books. If it's a trilogy, you're not gonna get the buy-in from me. I'm gonna need to space it. But if it's 2 books, I immediately read Two Twisted Crowns and can't wait for you to read it.
I love it. The Parable of the Sower, Octavia Butler. Have you read that one yet?
No, I have not read any Butler.
Oh my goodness. This is on my list for December. I said, I need to read this before January comes, but I know it would make a good movie. There, I wouldn't say series on that one, but definitely from what I'm hearing and seeing, it would make a very good movie.
Awesome. I believe they made Kindred into a show or a movie.
That was good. I enjoyed.
I own it.
Mhm,
It's downstairs. It's one of those it's a modern classic in my opinion, but,
mhm.
it still belongs in the classics realm, and
Absolutely.
I do wanna pick it up. So I got it at the Goodwill bookstore for, like, 250. So
That is
I do need to check
awesome.
it out.
I really enjoyed the Kindred show. I think that one was Hulu. Very, very good. I one.
And I didn't wanna watch it yet until I do the book.
I'm always trying to figure out, do I wanna read the book first or do I wanna watch the show? Or do I watch the show first and then a book? It's like, I don't know.
I think I would always elect to do the book first
Mhm,
because me personally, I get spoiled by a show where I'm like, I know the story. I don't reread.
mhm,
I've read 2 or 3 things twice, and they're my all-time favorites, so I'm not gonna reread something.
mhm.
So I'm probably not gonna read it after I've already seen the story take place.
Okay, I'm gonna take that advice to read it first and then watch it.
I think I'm gonna do it hopefully in the next year. I want to get some more classics on there, so we'll see what happens here. All right. So we talked extensively on books that we want to see on the screen, but this was a lot harder for me to come up with, mostly because the things that exist came from book or literature material.
Mhm,
So trying to find something that is unique on the screen that hasn't been on the page yet, it was very difficult. But one of them that I'm super obsessed with right now is the show From. If you haven't watched it, it is a town where if you end up there, you're stuck. And there are monsters come out at night that try to kill you. It's very much like Walking Dead-esque, where you've got the townsfolk and there's mysteries about that. There's mysteries about the town. There's mysteries about the monster. There's just so much good there that I'm like, I want to read series of books
mhm,
on this where we can dive a little bit more into some of the history and some of the lore that exists. I think your hands are a little tied when you're doing like that, the movie or the TV show.
mhm.
So I think that'd be a great book series. This other one is Long Legs, which is a horror Silence of the Lambs thriller. It blew everybody away last year. It was like the number one horror thriller. We watched it for Halloween at my dad's, and this absolutely needs to be on paper as a book that I can put on my bookshelf and scare the crap out of myself because it was so twisty and atmospheric, and that is exactly what I want out of a thriller. I have never given a thriller 5 stars.
Oh, wow.
I have come for 4.5. I have never given a thriller 5 stars because they're predictable-ish in
Mhm,
nature, and if you go outside of the predictability, you get wild swings. You're like, "That's so wild, nobody could have come up with that."
mhm.
And that's not as enjoyable as, say,
No.
something that's wild and twisty, but you're getting the full package of atmosphere and vibes from it the whole way around. So I think Long Legs would be the one to produce a book that could earn 5 stars from me. In the same realm, I'd say Midnight Mass, which is a Mike Flanagan show on Netflix. It's actually a limited series, I believe. And it came on the cusp of The Haunting of Hill House, which is a fantastic
A
book, and
scary
everybody
book.
should read it. It's a scary book. And then The Haunting of Bly Manor was the second show that came out,
Mhm.
and again, based on a book. And I was like, maybe Midnight Mass is based on a book. So I looked it up and absolutely not. Now there's some inspiration for sure, but Mike Flanagan is top tier horror director. He knows how to turn a story into more than just scares. It scares you because you feel like you're part of it. You feel everything that the characters are feeling, and that's what a book does.
I can't do
It's the
that one.
only thing you can do in a book. If you're scared by a book, it's because you're in the mind of the characters in the book. I very seldom get scared by a book. I will be unsettled for sure, especially if, like an idiot, I'm going to read this book about somebody in the woods while I'm camping with my family in the woods. I will freak myself out because I'm an idiot. But he has the ability to create some characters and put those vibes in there that I think could scare the crap out of me on paper.
Yeah, see, I'm a chicken. I can't do any of
I
those.
know.
I even look at just the picture of From, and I'm like, "There's no way I can watch that." Just the first initial one, I can't do it.
I love it because the actor who plays Boyd, the main black actor there, he's the sheriff mayor,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
his reactions, if you just watch him in some of the scenes, are so real. And you're like, exactly. Instead of like, oh, they're running down in the basement. How predictable. He's like, why would you run in he's very real about all of
Okay.
his reactions. And so I got my dad hooked on it. And let me tell you, my dad stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning the other day
Oh my
to
goodness.
finish from season one to get up to season 3 and 4 episodes in, and then we went over there for Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Dad, let's just throw From on," and of course, everybody was talking, so nobody got to
You
really
couldn't even
experience
watch
it,
it.
and my dad texts me. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I get a text from my dad that just says, like, "This character's tripping," and I'm like he's still up
Isn't
watching
that the
From because
best?
he's obsessed.
That is the best, though.
Uh, highly recommend From. There's a little more pulp culture on the piece, but check it out, and let's put it on paper, people.
Absolutely. All right, my favorite part, the November
Here we go.
monthly recap. November was good. I don't know about you, but November was good. I enjoyed November.
Mine wasn't bad.
I did. I got a nice variety of some reads for November to touch on. Only because it was November and I finished it right on time. I have to mention it again. The Women. It is my top read of the year. I think I'm on 46 reads for the year. I finally hit 46 reads and it is my number 1. You gotta read it. You gotta read
Oh,
it.
for the year, not even just for, like, the month. You're
No,
saying for the
I'm
year.
saying for the year. It tops already for the year by far.
Okay.
I did read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which was the sequel, Pumpkin Spice Cafe. The first one, I didn't like it. It was a 3. It was cozy, but it was meh. It was okay. Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, I definitely gave it 4 stars.
Well,
It was
no,
a
let's
winner.
let's let's talk about that because
Yeah.
I'm confused how you A went on to book 2 if you didn't like book 1 that much. B, what is the difference between the second book? What did they do better?
Honestly, this one for me had a mystery element to it. Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I didn't really get attached to the characters or the journey. Maybe it's because I had too much in life going on at the same time of trying to read it because busy work, mom, everything, wife, sometimes I try and put on a book and I'm just not feeling it. But I did push through and I read it. This one, the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, it was cozy, but it wasn't a sleepy cozy. It kept me interested. It had a good element of mystery to it. It was overall a happy adventure. I was able to grow with the main character and her challenge for wanting to be more exciting. She was always the by the book. I have to go to school. I have to go to work. And she never had any fun. I think she was turning 30 or something. She's like, I've never done anything in my life that was fun. I never lived before. With this one, it's actually where she finds these little hints in books in her bookstore, and she doesn't know who's doing them. But for example, one of them would say, go to the town fair and write a Ferris wheel. And that's what she did. And it was just a wonderful journey with how she really just started living. And it was all because somebody was giving her the hints to start living. To me, it was kind of relatable because I feel like most of the time all I do is work and take care of home. And for the longest time, I did school. And now I'm like, oh, this beautiful world of books and excitement. It's just a good thing. One more, and then I'll let you share some of yours because I don't want to just take all of the fun with it. The Reformatory by Tanner Dew. This was my first horror, but I liked it even more because it was a horror with a historical fiction and it's based on a true story. So, this Florida School for Boys was actually initially founded in like 1900s. So, we're looking at Jim Crow Florida. Robbie, he faces racism and injustice at this reform school, and there's actually ghosts. And that to me was like, I don't know if I want to read this because, it talked about ghosts, but these ghosts actually guide them. And he fights for survival and truth. And he has to live in this whole new space. And again, he's only like 12 years old, but just imagining all the things that happens, the way the story wraps up, it was an amazing read for me. I gave that one 5 stars.
It's there. I've had it several times, but something stops me every time that just feels so daunting. It's the historical setting.
Mhm.
If you haven't read, and I think you have, or I suggested it last time,
Mhm.
but Rivers Solomon is an author that very much writes these historical horrors that
Mhm.
aren't scary. That
Okay.
if you liked this, you need to pick up Sorrowland.
I put that
I
on my
promise
list.
you will give it 5 stars.
I did put that on my list for Sorrowland. Isn't it like a smaller book?
It's not super big.
Okay.
It's got some magical realism to it. You're gonna love it. If you loved and if you do love Tananarive, they are, I'll say yin and yang, but really they're 2 sides of the same coin. They are powerful. I won't say race focusing,
Mhm.
but there definitely is an element of race and history and ancestry and different things like that,
Okay.
that gets wrapped up into these books. You're gonna love it.
I'm gonna have
So,
to add it on
Sorrowland,
Libby.
hopefully we'll be hearing about that.
Alright, Imma have to add it to my Libby.
All right. Yes, you did definitely read some good ones, more than me, but I got to a couple. I'm going to start on the high because I had 2 fours and they're both different. So I'm
Okay.
going to start with the one I think that's probably going to be at the top of my list. The book is called Antinora by Dory Lumpkin. You know you're going to get me in a novella. It's 116 pages. The story is here. Normally you get a chunk of the story. This one feels complete, but it's almost as if a confessional or a retelling.
Oh,
of what happened, and you get some backwater town where the church rules the town.
mhm.
And the church is very much like a Westboro Baptist church,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
where they're challenging to say the least. They are holding snakes, and if you get bit by the snake, it's because your faith isn't strong enough in God. That's where we're at. So you have this girl who's very much the black sheep of the town. People are cursing her name, calling her the devil because she's just different. And I think there's an element of possession where it's like, was she possessed? Certainly sounds like maybe it was, but her best friend, really the only friend in town, is conflicted because she also has these feelings for her. And they clearly have a connection beyond friendship, but in a town where that would certainly be
Mhm.
damnable. It wasn't something that she even fully understood. Then things begin to go down. Again, 116 pages. I can't tell you it,
Wow.
but it escalates so quickly that you're not prepared for how quickly it goes crazy. People are dying, things are happening. By the end of it, you feel for the town because they just got rocked by loss, but like retribution. And you feel for so many of the people who are just trapped there, including our main character. It's told as a confessional, which very much sounds second person, but it is a first person book. She's very much talking about this other girl named Nora. It was a 4 star. I think it could have been a 5 if it was a little longer. I'll say that this one might be one where the novella format hurt it in the long run.
I don't really read
And then,
novellas.
yeah, I know. You'll get there. Just like you didn't really read cozy books. You'll get there. I'll hook you up. I promise you. It's just something so easy about it where you're just like, hey, I can add to my reading count. I feel like I'm getting a story. You're getting something unique. And novellas, you get a thriller, 300-page thriller, and they just keep pumping them out. Frida McFadden, perfect example.
Mhm.
Slap a new one word name on the front of the book, change out some characters, put it in a prison, put it in a cruise ship. The woman can just pop out books like nothing.
Yes.
Where with a novella, they're very limited in their scope, so they have to have a unique story,
Okay.
and they don't all work out that way.
That'd be another challenge.
Yeah, novella challenge?
Mhm.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I've got some ideas. We're gonna talk after this.
Okay.
My next book is Arthur and Teddy Are Coming Out by Ryan Love. This one caught my attention because the cover is very like colorful. He's wearing like a pink shirt and green pants. It's like an art style to it. It jumped out at me and I'm like, I'm just going to pick this up. It's some kind of contemporary romance or something like that. It's not quite a romance.
Mhm.
And it really does focus more on it's a grandfather who is 79 and decides to finally live his truth and comes out. He's been married
Wow.
for 50 years to his lovely wife. It was a marriage of convenience where they did father children and grandkids, and they've lived this life together and they do love each other. But he felt like he needed to live his life to the fullest before he goes out there. He can't keep hiding in the shadows. And so he
Wow.
decides to come out. The town is rocked by it. It's a very small town in the UK somewhere. His grandson is struggling with coming out as well because he feels that his family's just not going to accept it. And then when the family doesn't truly accept the grandfather coming out, he's even more scared. He thinks he
Mhm.
was right. It's the struggle of coming out, of connecting with family, not just Teddy and Arthur, but also the mom, best friends. And then there's definitely an aspect of romance to it. There's no spice. There's a scene where it's like one of those, like, you think it's going to build, and I'm like, oh no.
Mhm.
And then something gets interrupted and like something else goes on. And I'm like, thank goodness, because I think that might have ruined the book for me. It
Mhm.
just wasn't what I wanted. I wanted that love aspect. It was so fun to read. I'm not going to be going down the realm of like contemporary romances by any means, but if you give me a little general fiction with some heart to it and some characters that you can really connect with and learn to love and want to follow their story and see it end hopefully happily,
Mhm.
you got me there. So I want to read more like this.
That sounds good. Kinda actually reminds me of A Little Life. We talked about adding that one just with the different characters and friends and their journeys. I think that'll be a good one for us to tie into.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to put that one on our list. Since we're on the story of love and happiness and all the things, I have to mention This Could Be Us and Before I Let Go, Kennedy Ryan. Yes, it is on TikTok, but that is not how I found it. I simply found it just by the cover. The cover of both of these books. I first did Before I Let Go, and it was beautiful. I was walking around Barnes and I'm like, "Ooh, what's this book?" And I saw it was Kennedy Ryan. I'm like, "Man, this book is gorgeous." I immediately read it and I said, "Okay, I need all the books." Before I Let Go is a second chance romance. They actually entertain the idea of getting a divorce and all of the things, and it's whether they decide to make it work or if they decide to let go. Definitely beautiful. This could be us on that side of things. She does go through all of these terrible events. I'm not going to go into details because the book needs to be read, but both of these stories are about triumph and strength and overcoming those things that we sometimes don't think that we can get over. And I love them both because they hit on all areas of life. I was crying tears of joy for both of them at the end. Kennedy Ryan does amazing. If you're looking for a book that really takes you in, you got to read that one. That's by far. Another one that I read, Gothicana. This might be up in your realm a little bit. This was a dark academia setting. I gave this one 4 stars just because it was my first time reading anything in this setting before. The way to sum it up is like a Beauty and the Beast meets Dracula retelling, and it is a forbidden romance.
Whoa.
Yes, exactly. It's an extreme one, but it was so good. The story and the mystery and how they have to work together. Again, forbidden romance, right? It was great. I gave that one 4 stars. That was a new one for me.
Did you read Ninth House?
I did not read Ninth House yet. It has been sitting in my hoopla for a while now, and I just haven't read it yet.
I think you need to add that on there. Ninth House and then Hellbent.
Okay.
I think you're gonna like that one. Ninth House will always have a chokehold on me. It is dark academia. There's a system to things
Okay.
that I really like the way it goes, and Galaxy Stern is the main character,
Okay.
and she is hands down her name will always bring me joy. You know how I have a heart for spunky, personality-driven female character leads. Gideon from Gideon the Ninth. Definitely at the top of the list, but she's number 2. So I think you're gonna like Ninth House and Hellbent. Definitely check that out. If you need the physical book, I got both of them here.
Awesome sauce. I love it.
I wanted to hit on my last well, I've got 3 technically, but we
Mhm.
share the 3rd, so we'll talk about
Yes.
that. I actually just finished up a book called Old Wounds by Logan Ashley Kisner. I finished it the other day because I'll post a photo of the cover on our socials because if you tell me that there's a more beautiful cover out there, I don't think you can come up with it. It's
Okay.
a trans horror story and this black cover and instead of just like white writing, you get this white outlined with the purple and the light blue for the trans flag.
Ooh.
It is incredible. The eyes, the mouth of the monster. Oh, it is so good. Now, the book unfortunately didn't land perfectly with me. You know, they're sacrificing girls to this monster, and you have 2 trans characters. One's a trans female, one's a trans male. So it really brings on the idea of what is a girl? What is a female? Is it at birth? Is it what they feel they identify as? And then you get this backwards town that's been sacrificing these girls to avoid catastrophe and disaster in their world. It's very much like Wrong Turn, where everybody in the town seems to be okay with just sacrificing these
Oh my
people
goodness.
without a second thought every 6 months, and you really get some moments of horror throughout it and some gross moments and some shocking moments, but then it started to fall apart in the last half of the book, and I'm like, "Really? That's what we wanna do?" And it just didn't stay cohesive, so it lost me in the end. I gave it a 3. Definitely recommend it, especially for the representation. They are from Columbus, Ohio, so shout out.
Oh, wow.
They are escaping Columbus, Ohio, because Ohio for queer people sucks. So shout out to the government, get their crap together because we can't keep putting our folks who are already under enough stress and enough struggle under more, but I digress. So there was that one there that really could have been better, but I think it was pretty darn good still. And my last book, I talked about actually in the winter reads that I wanted to read. It was called Memorials by Richard Chismar. It was very culty. I don't know how I feel about cults in my books yet. I like them in movies.
Mhm.
I think they're kinda creepy and give you the chills. This book was a little bit different. It was a slow burn, and I didn't love the slow burn because they were focusing on things like, are you trying to tell a story about roadside memorials?
Mhm.
Is that the purpose of it? We're focusing so much of our time and attention there, and I feel like if we just scraped some of that out of there, we would have been left with a good atmospheric horror story. Instead, the tension would like start to build and then you'd like get distracted for a while
Um,
doing like this really mundane stuff and I'm losing it and then it would start to build again. By the end, it got so freaking wild. I'm like, what is going on? It ended up as a 3. Again, a good book. I'm gonna recommend it, but, like, just know what you're getting into. Don't expect this super high tension filled, action packed. It's not that. It definitely is creepy, and it definitely has some merit to it, but it's not for everybody.
I don't know. I think you kinda lost me at the slow burn part. I have trouble with those. I need action. I need my books to open up. I think that's why I like Fourth Wing so much.
You say that, but you just read The Women and The Reformatory. I don't think you know what that means. Those are the definition of slow. I can't say I haven't read either of them, and I'm sure there are bits of action, but
Yeah.
I'm sure those qualify as slow burn.
I have to research that one.
Yeah, we have the last one to talk about, which, spoiler alert, you're not gonna get to hear because we need you to come hang out with us
Yeah.
and talk about it on our live show on Sunday.
Absolutely. The games gods play. Our book club pick for November has finally concluded.
It ended on Friday. I think you took a couple extra days to get through it, but that's
Yes,
okay.
I made it. It was because of the holiday and family, and no one
Yeah,
wants to read books when, you got all your loved ones near you.
I do, but I can love you and you can be quiet while I read.
It's like, "Give me my book." That's so funny.
Not wrong.
I am looking forward to the live, though. I think that's gonna be really exciting to dig into the games gods play, really talk about everything that took place. There was a lot happening in that book.
There was a significant amount of world build, characters
Yeah.
that maybe you're a little familiar with, don't get me wrong, they are gods that have been with us for centuries. However, just the different take on this story, it took an interesting turn that you'll have to find out if we enjoyed it, but I cannot wait to hang out. This is going to be a live show that's open to, it's going to be unlisted on YouTube. So check our socials for all of our followers. You will be able to get the link to it. Family and friends will be invited to come hang out with us and chat about it on YouTube on Sunday around, I think we said 6 o'clock.
Y
That's the plan.
Yep.
So just look for our social media posts to join in on that.
And even if you didn't read the book, just come hang out.
Yeah, we won't get spoilery from the beginning. You can get some general vibes and maybe you can decide like, okay, they liked it, they didn't like it. Should I check it out?
Mhm.
And then you can dip out if you want. If you say, oh, that doesn't sound up my alley, but I want to come hear what they had to say about it, hang out. Let's chat. You can comment and interact with us. So I'm looking forward to that.
Good. I'm looking forward to December as well.
December is going to be another holiday filled month where we got a lot going on here. So
Mhm.
naturally, we both decided to put way too many books on our TBR for the
Of
month.
course.
So let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, I already mentioned one. I am currently reading Iron Flame. So, along with Iron Flame, I am reading Before the Coffee Gets Cold because you need a little action with a little calm. And A Court of Mist and Fury. I feel like I've been reading this book for 2 months and I'm ready to wrap it up. And then we also have The Nightingale and Wisteria. Those are my December hopefuls. The other ones I think we have in common.
Yeah, I think so. I know that I recently went to the library to pick up a bunch of new releases that have been piquing my interest for a while. Some were brand new, but I walked past some of the sections and don't judge a book by a cover like there's any other way to judge a book. And these covers nowadays are just, even some of the self published releases have some of the most stunning covers out there. So I picked up a ton of books at the library. I'm going to start with the book Air by Saba Tahir. That is a fantasy novel. I believe it's in the YA category, but the cover was too good to pass up. So I had to pick up that one. Keeping with that same genre, I picked up Impossible Creatures, which is a children's book, a middle grade book, I believe, but it won Children's Book of the Year. So I couldn't pass up on that. Next is Evil in Me by Brahm's newest release. I know I talked about Slewfoot earlier, but I wanted to definitely get to that one there. Got a psychedelic cover. Then I have The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song. Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. Nevo's newest book, The City in Glass, and The Deading by Nicholas Ballardas. I know I mentioned a couple other books in my last post as well. Cold Snap by Lindy Ryan, I'm still working on, and I have Delilah S. Dawson's newest book, It Will Only Hurt for a Moment. I'm really excited about that one. And then I know we have two buddy reads. We're going to read When the Moon Hatched and we're going to read The Nightingale.
I think those would be very good, even just discussion wise. I feel like both of those would be really good for a buddy read. I like it. See, we're figuring this out as we're going along, right?
Absolutely. So I think that just about does it.
Always a fun time talking about books. What else could you need, right? Maybe next time bring some hot tea. Love it.
Well, until the next episode, I guess this is goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.